Thrip, true believers, welcome back to New World Nerds. I'm Superman Nico, even though you just saw me shoot some webs.
What's that fresh?
Thank you guys so much for watching my Far From Home spoiler review. I very much appreciate it. Go ahead and check it out if you haven't yet. For those of you who can't get enough of the amazing Webhead, we're going to be ranking every single Spider-Man movie from worst to best here in this video. Not just a nickname for Spider-Man, but also a great YouTube channel, the Amazing Webhead. Link down in the description. Go ahead and subscribe to him. Don't just subscribe to us. Where's Amazing Webhead's aluminum play button? Before we get started, go ahead and list your favorite Spider-Man movies down in the comments. I don't want you to be influenced by my list, okay? That's your pick. At number 8, we're going to start off with a little bit of controversy with The Amazing Spider-Man 1. I feel like this was a bland and by the numbers Spider-Man origin story. Everything in this movie was just tiptoeing around the fact that it didn't want to be Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 1. I thought this movie had a lot of potential. Mark Webb, I think, is a great director. I loved 500 Days of Summer. I thought Andrew Garfield was a great choice for Spider-Man. I still think he's a good choice for Spider-Man, but he's a little bit too cool to be Peter Parker. In this movie, Peter Parker isn't even the one getting beat up by Flash Thompson, and also in real life, Andrew Garfield got Emma Stone. He got the girl. He's way too cool. When was Peter Parker ever this weird skater punk? Andrew Garfield isn't a good Peter Parker because Andrew Garfield can get ass, bro. Also, I love the lizard in the Spider-Man cartoon. I feel like Dr. Kirk Connors can be a super compelling character. I even like Kirk Connors in the Raimi trilogy. Could have been such a compelling villain, but instead he just turns into a lizard and he's like, I'm gonna turn everybody into a lizard. Cause reasons. Also, you know what part of Peter Parker's origin story I don't give a shit about? It's his parents. I don't care unless it's gonna be the S.H.I.E.L.D. origin story from the comics. Number 7, we got The Amazing Spider-Man Part 2. I felt like this one was a little more ambitious than the first Spider-Man movie. I thought this was the most comic book accurate costume we've ever gotten. Stuff they took chances on though were kind of for the wrong reasons. Like they took chances to build a world and make Sinister Six, but instead of building up these villains organically, they just had a bunker full of each of their super suits. Where's my super suit? It's in the super villain bunker. There's a guy with a fedora. Who's that? They also carried a storyline they didn't care about in the first movie, and that's Peter Parker's parents. I don't care if you have a secret Roosevelt train. Super unpopular opinion, but I liked Electro. Maybe it's because I just like Jamie Foxx so much. That could be it. The only reason I think Jamie Foxx had trouble portraying like a nerdy guy, a not cool guy like Max Dillon, was because he's such an inherently cool guy. He doesn't know how to not be charismatic. I did really like the part in the beginning where he's like, you're my eyes and ears out here. Having said that, I like that part. I don't like how when he turns into Electro, he's like, how don't you remember me, Spider-Man? Even though every defining characteristic about me is gone now that I'm a scary blue electric guy. A lot of people hate this part in the movie, but I did like that they included the iconic Spider-Man death, one of the most iconic moments in Spider-Man's life. Don't get me wrong though, that Goblin was terrible. In one of the earlier cuts of the film, they had Peter going and beating the shit out of that Green Goblin because he killed Gwen Stacy. Him literally beating the Goblin to a bloody pulp. They took it out obviously because that scene alone would have earned the movie an R rating, but I still kind of would like to have seen that cut. They should have put that on the Blu-ray. I don't know, I didn't buy the Blu-ray. Paul Giamatti's The Rhino should have been in it more. This also means though that Spider-Man must have died in that final fight against the Rhino because we didn't get any more movies. Comment down below all you want, but Spider-Man died in that fight against the Rhino. There's no proof telling me that he didn't. At number 6, we got Spider-Man 3, the first entry of the Raimi trilogy on this list. I know a lot of people have this movie really low on their list, but I think the first half of this movie is actually really good. The transformation of Sandman, I think, is flawless. Him willing himself back to life, just using the love of his daughter is something that gives me chills just talking about it. I literally got chills up my spine just thinking about it. If the Venom storyline ended when it fell off of him in the church and the suit joining Eddie Brock there in the bottom would have been like a post-credit scene, I think that would have been really cool. And then you do full Venom in Spider-Man 4. Also didn't need the retcon of Sandman killing Uncle Ben. I didn't need to see that. Also, I didn't want to see that again. It tears me up inside. This is the most annoying MJ I think has ever been. Look, she's like, go get him, Tiger, at the end of Spider-Man 2, and then in Spider-Man 3, she's like, well, why'd you go get him, Tiger? Listen to me, guys. This is outside of the X-Men. This is the first Marvel team-up we ever get. This is one of the first, like, Deus Ex Machina, another hero coming through to save a hero. There's a part of me that gets really sick when I see superheroes get beat up. Like, you can say whatever you want about Superman Returns, but when he's getting, like, drowned in those little puddles and he's getting beaten up by all those Lex Luthor goons, like, I feel sick to my stomach. That same sickness in my stomach came back when I was watching Spider-Man 3 and he was getting beat up by Sandman and Venom. He puts, like, his arm out and was like, no, somebody help me, and his mask is all half ripped. Dude, like, I love this Peter Parker. I love this Spider-Man. It just, like, I'm almost gonna tear up right now. But Harry coming through and throwing that goblin bomb in Sandman's ear, that was really cool. And I was like, yeah, we got him. Thanks, Burner. Thank you for telling the truth. Number 5, a little more controversy unless you're Andy from the Dorks Next Door, the original Spider-Man of the Raimi trilogy. Blade and X-Men definitely played their parts in making superheroes mainstream, but I think this really is what blew it up. This movie made so much freaking money at the box office. Not only that, but I think this came at a time where the special effects were actually like catching up to the ideas of the director, because some of the CGI, even in this, is a little wonky, but I think they did a really good job. I think most of it holds up. I think it's a great movie all around, despite the fact that there's 30-year-olds playing high schoolers and all that stuff. The guy playing Flash Thompson is literally only like 2 years younger than the guy who's playing the teacher. Great villain. William Dafoe is great. I love him in Aquaman. He's still got it. He can still play any comic book role, I believe that. William Dafoe for Joker. That's a great fan casting. Throw up a pick. Wow, good job. Aunt May and Uncle Ben are great in this franchise. I love their dynamic with Peter. And Uncle Ben's death is one of the saddest Marvel deaths. One of the saddest deaths, I think, in cinema for me personally. This one for me and for a lot of people of my generation, I know it also did this for Gump's videos. It really broke our nerd walls down, made us fall in love with not only superheroes, but also movies. It definitely didn't just have an impact on the pop culture, it had impact on people personally. Number 4, Spider-Man Homecoming. This is the best everyday interpretation of Spider-Man. I feel like you go to a comic book store right now, pick one off the shelf, read that bad boy like you're reading a bit from Spider-Man Homecoming. I hate how some of nerd Twitter is like, oh, Spider-Man Homecoming, do you mean Iron Man Jr.? If you were a young, smart, aspiring scientist in this world, you would want to be Tony Stark. You would look up to Tony Stark. For someone like that, when you're lacking a father figure to come into your life and tell you that you're good, all you want to do is impress that person. That got a little too deep. Look, my point is that in our universe where Tony Stark doesn't exist, all of you guys look up to him, don't you? All you guys want to believe that Robert Downey Jr. really is that person. You want to know how I can prove that to you? I love you 3000. Get a little misty-eyed? Yeah, I thought so. We got a great villain in The Vulture. Michael Keaton really brought in this role. He was super menacing, even though just being a guy in a bird suit. I also totally love how he didn't bite it at the end of the movie. This movie really felt fresh, and it was also fully integrated into the MCU. Spider-Man, a lot like The Legend of Korra, is always cleaning up their mentor's mess. Like Korra is always cleaning up Aang's mess. Peter is always cleaning up villains that Iron Man makes, which I don't think necessarily is a problem. Number 3, we got Spider-Man Far From Home. Don't worry, no spoilers here. I'm not gonna say any spoilers. It's gonna be okay. You can continue watching this video. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe. Granted, I've only seen this movie once, but I did like it a little more than Spider-Man Homecoming. I felt like Peter was more on his own, more of you only have your wit and your will to defeat the bad guy. At the bare minimum, this Spider-Man movie is just a great high school romp. I love how they didn't just brush over this post-Avengers Endgame world. I love how regular people just have to go about their day, go about their life, knowing that, hey, you just lost 5 years, but whew, sophomore year, right? A lot of people were skeptical, including myself, when Spider-Man was going to go to Europe for the sequel. Look, guys, if you really want to see Spider-Man in New York, watch the 6 other Spider-Man movies that you have and the countless cartoons and the billions of comic books that have Spider-Man in it. I feel like Spider-Man's really interesting when he doesn't have a bunch of skyscrapers to swing off of. I think it's really compelling when Peter has to use his brain rather than his web shooters to figure out a problem. Number 2, this was my number 1 for the longest time, but after I rewatched one of the Spider-Man movies so many times and just the way I can keep going back to it and finding new and exciting things. Number 2, the second best Spider-Man movie of all time for me personally, Spider-Man 2. This was my number 1 for years. Up until recently, Spider-Man 2 was the quintessential Spider-Man movie for me. I love the villain in this movie. Despite his motives not being super clear, I thought he was scary, he was menacing. Even though he's just a regular guy, I still felt like Spider-Man was in some real danger. The reason this movie is so high for me is because some of the moments in it. The train scene, I think, is unparalleled in a live-action Spider-Man movie, and the monologue given by Aunt May just makes me tear up, makes me misty-eyed. Also, can we talk about how Aunt May totally knows that he's Spider-Man? I believe there's a hero in all of us. One that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble, and allows us to die with pride. Oh. So this carried on the Raimi theme of each character killing themselves and Peter just being like, oh, what just happened? Kind of absolving him of any guilt, even though he still feels super guilty. All right, let's do this one last time. Number 1, I'm sure a lot of you guessed it's definitely in a lot of people's like top 2 or 3. Number 1 Spider-Man movie of all time is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse delivered a message that I didn't know I needed. Growing up, Spider-Man was my favorite character, but I never felt just because I wasn't white that I couldn't be Spider-Man. One of Stan Lee's great quotes is that Spider-Man doesn't have a little mouth hole like Batman. Spider-Man wears a mask and his whole body is completely covered, so anybody could imagine themselves under the mask. And you can say that all you want, but it's different when you actually see it on screen. I never thought that I couldn't be Spider-Man, but this movie showed showed that I can be Spider-Man, if that makes any sense. I really love Miles Morales. My only gripe with him is that he needs to start building up his own rogues gallery because he seems to be borrowing a lot of Peter Parker's villains. Definitely the realist version of New York with a bunch of people from different backgrounds and cultures. Every portrayal of each Spider-Man, woman, or ham I think was well casted and absolutely flawless. I love Nick from New Girl as Spider-Man. I think he's so great. I think he nails this. Chris Pine, Haley Steinfeld, Nick Cage, John Mulaney even though I don't really like him. And the voice actor of Miles Morales, I forget his name, it's like Sheen Morris or something like that. Very sorry if I ruined his name. Not only are the performances great, but the animation in this movie is like nothing I've ever seen before. Definitely some groundbreaking animation. That's the list, guys. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I really would love to hear what you guys have to say. Spider-Man is my favorite superhero of all time. I want to know what you guys think. Leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Twitter at New World Nerds. Hit me up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really love to do videos like this where I can just gush about the things I really love. All right, let's do this one last time. Thank you guys for watching all the way to the end of the video. Face front, true believers. And remember, with great power, there must also come great responsibility. Keep nerding out there, true believers. Do it!